Astrology Throwdown tonight, where we try to find out the truth about what's going on in the world and in my life. I'm not totally sure what's going on in my life, so how much can I say about the world? But I can tell you what I've experienced and what I've been through and what I am going through. And lately, I'm going very deep into astrology because I am in a bizarre situation where my project has been telepathically hijacked by my favorite musician, Elvis Costello, co-hand, King of America, Napoleon Dynamite. And maybe I have gone completely insane. Maybe this is really happening. That's up for you to decide. So I'm trying to uh, just tell my story and say what's going on. And anyone can see that my project has changed into um, a much more pop music direction. And oh, and the psyops straight from that banker in England have taken on a very rock and roll character also. Okay, so please learn about damage control and learn about the way publicists try to distract from things that scare the banker that pays them. Please, my goal, my really strong goal is that people will not fall for the tricks of that dynasty anymore because that dynasty only controls us through lying to us and tricking us. And if they can't do that anymore, their empire is over. So it's something to really hope for and to really dream of and to really work towards to help us understand and love each other and do things for each other and appreciate how much we have to offer each other and how so many of the conflicts that we think we have are being engineered for us. Look at these psyops that they make. One side is wrong and the other side's a little more wrong, and you have to pick a side and get into big fights about it. Well, that's on purpose. That's the way our world is being run by a group of tricksters who get together and plot how to get us to fight, ways to eliminate us from the planet without them getting caught. They need to get caught. They need to be asked questions. Law enforcement is most important when it's applied to the ones who are really hurting the most people. If someone gets hooked on drugs and steals from someone, that's a terrible thing, and it should be dealt with. But how much more so when it's someone who is killing millions and millions of people throughout the course of their life? Look at the trial of Henry Kissinger to see the just the body count that these people can create. It's a lot of killing that they're getting away with. And just letting them get away with it means that we're next, obviously. So there is no other news. There is no other story. There's a child trafficking, child abusing, dark occult left hand path dynasty, which is pulling the strings on all of our countries. How do we know that? Because all the countries went along with a complete BS story with no corroboration, no factual basis whatsoever. That's how you know that puppets have been nominally put in charge of all of these countries. There are no countries. There's just this dynasty and their plots and their publicists and the glitzy media that they use to basically herd us around like livestock. It's so important for people to understand that, and I can only do this and beg you, beg anyone, any influence that I can possibly have, I would ask you to use to influence others so we can get free and so their tricks just won't work anymore. And and I do think of this sometimes. When the Nazis came goose stepping in, what if everybody laughed at them? it would have been over. We need to laugh at them. We need to laugh at their goose stepping soldiers because they are laughable. Yeah, they're wearing really nice clothes and they drive really nice cars and they make a lot of money for being stooges of that dynasty. But look at their lives. They spend their whole lives trying to trick people like me. They try to destroy people's lives. That's their career. And they get to drive a real nice leased car and they get to live in a big fancy house or something. Is it worth it to spend your whole life thinking about how to destroy other people's lives like all these agents have been trying to do to me? I'm now under permanent quarantine forever. My entire life is shut down. I can't travel. I can't have a career. Have no future now because that banker in England is coming up with stories, or his advisors are helping him come up with stories. And then because they have almost all the money in the world, they can just call up their puppets, and then their puppets put Nuremberg Code violating, amoral, anti human, inhuman, monstrous rules in place. Quarantining is not to finagle a journalist and artist into house arrest. When they finagled me into house arrest by coming to my house and intimidating me, I thought, wow, how interesting for my art project because they finagled Napoleon into house arrest. What are they thinking? Finagling me into what they did to Napoleon. It's the same exact people. They're proud of it. They admit it. I haven't done a trial saying they killed him because they admit it. See? So this is very serious. They kill heroes. And then once they think the coast is clear, they're so proud of themselves. Like, oh, Napoleon was so hard to kill. We're just so proud of ourselves. And their whole dynasty is built to a large degree on the murder of Napoleon. And I'm so proud to stand up for Napoleon and to hopefully the world will finally understand what Napoleon went through and what he was fighting for. And he was fighting the secret societies and this banking club. And it's not two sides. It's one side that is murdering the majority and enslaving the majority. It's not like red versus blue. It's not two football teams or anything like that. This is a very dangerous threat, and they just come up with these stories. That's why I'm always asking people to be able to see a publicity stunt. I knew 2020, the big 2020 thing, was BS because I could see the publicity campaign. Okay, once you can see a publicity campaign, you know, health crises do not spend probably I can't even imagine what they spent on publicists for this thing they did in 2020. Okay. uh, Pathogens do not hire publicists. Okay, so there's no way this was ever real to me because I know that pathogens don't hire publicists. That's what I said every day of this. Then who's hiring all the publicists? Can you imagine? Like they care about our health. They're trying to kill us. The Trial of Henry Kissinger by Christopher Hitchens. That shows you tip of the iceberg, the body count of these people. Okay. How do you know they're connected, the banker and Henry Kissinger? Because when they finally wanted to do their sham cover-up investigation of 9/11, oh, guess who they put in charge? Probably the one who did it. They're so clever, but they've got the money to push everything through, so push it they do. So then what happened? Some of the smart girls who were involved with that human sacrifice, dark occult, left-hand path ritual, no question about it, the book to look to for that information is the most dangerous book in the world. I think it is actually a shill book, but they tell you in that book the markers of a satanic ritual. And in the end of the book, he basically says, and what are you going to do about it? Probably nothing. I think the whole thing was a psych out. So they're basically saying, this is so obviously a satanic ritual, and you sheep aren't going to be able to do anything about it anyway. Ha, 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 ha. That's basically what that book is saying. Okay? They're saying we could be so in your face doing a satanic ritual in the middle of New York City. And what can you people do about it? Nothing, because we have all the money. And, they try to psych you out with their religion like they're so powerfully magical. I'm so glad I was able to set that illusion to rest, because if they had the power, the magic with a K power that they pretend to have, I'd be long gone. And I will tell you right now, as the recipient of so much of their magic with a K, okay? Yes, it was thrown at me. Yes, I did feel it. I know what they've got. It's not much, okay? It's not much, but it's real. You can throw energy around and you can do spells and all that stuff. That's all real. The question is, what's your motivation? And if your motivation is very, very selfless and very, very philanthropic, I think it's a good thing. And if your motivation is to hurt other people, or just basically to exploit and mistreat and abuse others, well, that's a different story. And what I'm really talking about is alignment. I'm not suggesting what anybody does with their life, but I'm saying everything in life is alignment. Do you want to help, or do you want to just have everything for yourself? Okay? That's the two kinds of people in this world, not the ones on the two sides of the Me Too psyop. Okay? And both of them, you can't really back up both of them. And that's why it's an argument. That's why this is all social engineering trickery. Okay? If it's coming from them, uh, we once we know, we know. You either know or you don't know how to identify the way they manipulate us. And then once that switch turns, like, you're always mad at them. Like, oh, they're trying it again. Like, you almost miss back when you were fooled, because oh, I guess that's just how it is. And then once you know, you're like, oh, there they go again. I want everybody to be like that. They're at it again. And you just sit back and watch them run through it. First, they create the problem. Then they create the reaction. They tell you, this is how you're supposed to feel about it. Okay? They always do it. First, they create the problem. They create the problem, like 9/11. They created the problem. And then the media told you what to feel about it. And then they said, we have a great solution, a war. Yeah. That's the basic template of everything they do. You just sit back and watch them do it. But what's so maddening is they get away with it and they get all the money for it. Okay? Anyway, like you said, all we can do is look within and look for the solutions so we can finally save ourselves. This is not okay. We cannot live like this. We have no future like this. The reason I've been doing such um, a project that's so dangerous to myself personally, because telling the truth under an organized crime dynasty is incredibly dangerous, obviously, and they kill people all the time. So it's not like I'm fine. I'm not fine at all. I'm up against the marauders of the planet. So, every day is a gift, I guess. So, anyway, I can't believe I do this. Anyway, so the point is, during the course of my weirdo day, where I do feel I'm talking to Cohen, but maybe it's all in my head. Maybe I'm just a crazy person. I don't think I am, but I might be. Who knows? Like I said, it's up to you to decide. So I heard him ask me to look into Castor, the star, and maybe, like I said, I heard it wrong. But it was really interesting, because if I did hear it wrong, it actually ended up still being very interesting. Okay, so I thought, what am I going to do with these stars? I don't know anything about these things. So I read every single thing I could possibly look up about Castor, because Cohen, if you go on the astrology report on my blog, I posted his chart. I posted a different chart. I'm not sure if the houses are right. So just ignore the houses, the ascendant, the midheaven, all that stuff. That could be wrong, but the other things should be very accurate. Okay, I just put this one up because it had more detail, and the other chart that I've been using doesn't have castor on it. So what is castor? Such a weird name. It's a star. No, it's not. It's 6 stars. It's everything is so confusing. Anyway, so if I actually use an app to find out what the stars are called in the sky. And when I started to look at the sky with this app, and it does work really well. I'll tell you, I don't know if I have it on this iPhone. I'm sure you can find a good one. I'll post it later, the name of the one that I like to use. Anyway, so once I was finding out where the stars were, I'm like, "Hey, what's up? This is wrong. This is not what I'm seeing in the charts." I felt really confused for a while about it. I just couldn't understand why it says in the chart that the planets are in Capricorn, but in the sky they're really in Sagittarius. I don't get it. So all of the planets are assigned behind if you look in the sky. And I didn't understand it at all. So I still actually don't quite understand. It's called the precession of the equinoxes and something to do with the wobble of the earth. I'm not going to pretend to understand it. I don't think the stars are moving. I think our perspective is moving, but I'm not sure. And I'm not pretending to be an expert in this. I'm really not. I'm really a student, and I want us all to become experts, especially me. And anyway, so we had to find out about this caster situation. And if you look at Cohen's chart, Castor is aligned with his Jupiter, okay? And this is a really powerful star because it's a main star in the Gemini constellation. Why did I bring up that the constellations are off? Because they're off here. I'm telling you about this. Our perspective has changed, but the charts are still this way, and I think the charts do work. So I think I don't think they're like tricking us or anything. I think there's just something going on, and this is how we're dealing with it. And we're reading the charts as if they're accurate, even though they're looking different. Maybe they are accurate, but they don't look accurate. I really don't know. Anyway, so Jupiter is aligned with Castor in Cohen's chart. In Cancer, everybody's Castors in Cancer because it's a fixed star, and it's one of the main stars of the constellation Gemini. Well, Gemini doesn't go with Cancer because of the drifting that's going on. So it's very interesting if you think about how that would change the energies of the stars, because our perception affects what all this means. We really are connected. So Gemini's in Cancer right now, astrologically. I think that's going to bring uh, a vibe of Gemini into Cancer. What is Gemini? Gemini is relating, talking, thinking. It's very two-faced, very changeable. It's an air sign. It's cerebral. It's light and can be superficial. So and of course it's the twins. Okay, what am I always talking about? Twin flames. And I, I've been doing this kamikaze mission because I thought my twin was in the spirit realm, and I don't really want to be apart from him. So I figured, oh well, if I don't really want to be apart from him, I might as well do some good and do the hero's journey and to solve my problem, I guess. But this is a big part of the story of Gemini, actually. That's what's so interesting, because this is a theme that's coming up again and again of twins. And now my twin he's among the living, but I can't talk to him. I can't see him. I'm quarantined from him, and I'm blacklisted from his entire class. It's incredible how many tricks and ropes they tried to put around us so we couldn't relate to each other. And now I even hear they're copying him in the media. They're like, he did something and then they copied it a day later, which shows you they're really tuned into him and they're really scared of him. But they don't want to let people know that. They want to like distract from him and like keep you from seeing what he's doing because I think they're sure that I'm right. And I'm pretty sure I'm right too. And they believe in all of these things. They have no trouble believing in reincarnation. They've brainwashed the people into thinking that these things are real, but they believe in them. They absolutely believe in twin flames and astrology and reincarnation and uh, our reunion. Our reunion, what are they going to do? It's already happened. It's too late. We have reunited. We haven't physically reunited, but we have reunited. We're working together and they know it. And that's why they're copying and they're acting so terrified. It's always interesting when they're like that. It's quite a show because they are performers. That's what they do. They put on a show. So that's what they do best. And we can watch them continue to dance and sing and put out records and come up with all their 3D art project performance art shows. And we can just watch them perform because that's what they do best. Okay? So there's this twin flame story in Cohen's chart. Why? Because Castor is aligned with his Jupiter. Well, Jupiter is the king of the gods. Jupiter is kind of just God. Philosophy, spirituality, communicating about knowledge, uh, large thinking, generosity, joviality, fun, second chances. All of these things are Jupiter. So he has an alignment between Jupiter and this star. This is probably going to be pretty positive for him. And then I looked and looked and looked into this star, and it's supposed to have the character of Jupiter and Mercury. Now that makes sense because Jupiter is actually a part of the Pollux and Castor story. Pollux and Castor are the twins. What is their story? I just alluded to it a little bit. Basically, Pollux and Castor were twin brothers, and one of them died in a war. It was Castor who died, and his brother Pollux was so sad without him that he asked Jupiter to kill him so he could go back to his brother, his twin that he loved so much. And Jupiter sympathized with Pollux and let them live in the heavenly realm and in the, I believe, the underworld. Something like that. Every other day, they would be in the spirit realm or another realm. I thought that was so interesting because it's so similar to what we're experiencing. We can't be together and we can only interact in the spirit realm. It's so allegorically similar. And Jupiter is even a part of the story. So I don't think that that's something we should ignore. And Castor is supposed to be the character of Jupiter. I mean, this is what I distilled from all of this data that I took in today. And there are contradictions, but at a certain point, I decide what I think is right, and then I apply it. And that's what this study is about. So when we look at Cohen's chart, he has this like tragic twin energy connected with Jupiter, but it's also part of a stellium. So we have to blend Jupiter with the moon, which is emotions, and with Uranus, which is like genius and shocks and revolution and freedom and breaking the rules. These are such important energies for how he comes across. He's so transformative. I want to say not transformative because that's more Pluto, but he's so surprising. And that is Uranus. And he's so emotional. And all of these things are happening in the constellation of Cancer, which I'm telling you is really has some Gemini to it because of this shifting. I'm talking about a constellation of Gemini, which is in Cancer. So this is a Cancer that has a very communicative thinking feel to it because that's what these stars are about. They're of a character of Mercury and Jupiter. It's very interesting. And if you look at the chart, it's very afflicted. This emotional, shocking, generous, educational, high-minded, spiritual and philosophical energy. It's all blending plus Castor, which brings this twin flame star-crossed love kind of feel to it that involves the spirit realm. And part of that story continues to indicate that Jupiter put them up in the stars to honor them, to honor their love. So basically, Jupiter made them extremely famous because their story was so touching. There's so much overlay here. And this is an alignment that he just so happens to have. And it's very afflicted. Well, things have not gone all that easily for him, in spite of his success. I I don't think he's been that sneaky. He pretty much lets you know what's going on with him. If you can understand how to pay attention, because he returns to themes a lot, and what he's gone through is not that hard to figure out. I mean, I've been studying him, so, and I talk to him telepathically, so I can't say how it is for other people. But the point is that he has this stellium in Cancer, which is a place of his origins, his history, his mother, his family, his homeland, his past lives, his sentiments. He's so sentimental. And you can see how this is a super heat zone of intense emotion. This is the place of emotion. It's the moon in Cancer. And there's this twin tragic spiritual story in the middle of it. And it's so afflicted, and we can't talk because I've been blacklisted and quarantined. How many ridiculous things can this banking dynasty do to one person to retaliate against their art projects? See, that shows that they are not really into art. They're really against art. Oh, but they act like they're patrons of the arts. See? It's so easy to expose them. Anyway, so Cohen's stellium, which involves this twin flame story, is afflicted by another stellium. The stellium that I've been talking about for days. Venus in Libra, Neptune in Libra. Yesterday I went on and on about Spica, very lucky star of the character of Mercury and Venus. See, communicator of the arts. He is a wonderful champion of the arts. He has done so much to fight for culture. I would never say that that's not true. He has always stood up for art. So he has this difficult stellium. I'm sure that gave him a lot of trouble because I know how much this dynasty hates it when people fight for culture. They want to destroy our culture, turn it into shopping malls. That's their culture. Buy now, buy now. That's their culture. I don't like their culture. I want a different culture that's actually edifying to humans. That would be incredible. That's my dream. Say Neptune dreams. So these are his difficult dreams because he has a difficult aspect with Neptune. He has a difficult aspect with Venus. He has a difficult aspect with Ceres, nurturing, and Saturn. So there's your captivity that he's always talking about. He feels like he's captive. How do I know that? Because he says it. He feels that he is in captivity. And for someone like him that is so emotionally connected with the energy of Uranus, he cannot handle that. He has to be free. I get that. He has to be free. I don't think anyone's going to be able to really, really capture him. It's in his chart that his need for freedom, I think, is stronger than anything else. And he has been living in captivity under this freaking dynasty that controls the music business. We have to get out of this. We have to get out of this. We cannot live like this anymore. It is not right to have everything owned by the same dark occultist left hand path group that's systematically eliminating the human population deliberately, and then trying to make us fight, make us hate ourselves, make us hate our bodies, make us feel inadequate, creating class systems that don't have to be that ridiculous, so we won't be able to understand each other. I think that's terrible. That these, you think that's not on purpose? That some people are so rich and some people are so poor? That's a lack of balance. That's on purpose. It does. I don't think the world even wants to be that way. I think they engineer it because that's what it takes to keep us divided, and they will do anything to divide us. The thing that's interesting, just to go back to my chart, I can't help going back to that because I'm so furious. Wow, furious. It cannot continue this way. If you want to know how I feel, listen to Van Morrison's album. He is so furious, just like I am. And I appreciate so much that he is expressing how impossible it is to tolerate this. This is everything the opposite. If they say it's white, go check, you'll find it's black. They say the opposite. We cannot have the whole world being run by people who just say the opposite all the time. Van Morrison's been saying it for years. It's the opposite. Like in his song Dangerous, oh, they said he was bad. He must have been good. He was a saint. That's how good he was. He was an angel to do what he did, and they call him names. He's 100% right. What he did was the absolute 100% right thing, and he did it in the right way, directly and powerfully. What he did was wonderful, wonderful. And then look at how they unleashed those publicists at him. Okay? Just watch them go. So I can't stop with that. It's because I'm furious. Anyway, what can I do? Anyway, so Castor's also in a really powerful spot in my chart. It's at the IC. What's the IC? Well, it's going to be in a place of Cancer, okay? But my Cancer is at the IC. So my Cancer is a sign ruled by the moon, and that's emotions, and it can be intuition. It's very feminine, very soft, and powerful because we are ruled by our emotions. So I have a super strong emotional emphasis because my Cancer is in my place of Cancer, that I see the place of the past. And I'm always talking about history of my past lives. And so it shows you that I really do have that emphasis. And as I'm always saying, every single thing in my chart is pointing right there because that's where my Saturn in the third house in Cancer is. I'm this frustrated person. That's the Saturn in the third house communicating. That's the third house is a place of Gemini in Cancer. And I'm having all these feelings and I'm at home and I'm stuck. That's Saturn. So over and over and over again, I see the themes of the Saturn in the third house in Cancer playing out in my life. And it just so happens to be at the IC. So it has an even stronger emphasis on the past. So I'm so influenced by the past. And then what's in my past? Castor. Castor, that's the twin flame, the tragic twin flame story. So that's from my past. These charts really do seem to be telling us stories. And someone somewhere on the internet said that if you have a very strong planet at another angle in the chart, so the angles in the chart would be where your ascendant is, that's the beginning of the first house, where your midheaven is, that's at the top of the chart, your descendant at by the seventh house is where the descendant is, that's your place of other people, then your place of the past, or your sentiment, your nostalgia, all that kind of feeling, your homeland. That's at the bottom. So I have this star, this twin flame star in the place of the past. And then I have Mars really close to my ascendant. So that's going to give it a very warlike quality. See, my twin flame story has a very warlike quality. It's interesting. If you just look at it, it does. It really does. Obviously, Napoleon's Napoleon. It's so interesting. Okay, well, enough of that. Hope I made my point. So everything's on the blog, so you can read it out. And hopefully that makes it easy. This is a major, major fixed star. So I'm not like digging into the cover looking for things. The stars, they must be important too. But how can we use them? What do they mean? What are they about? And it's very, very difficult with the stars because people usually focus on the planets. But I made a pretty good case that that star is playing out in a certain way for us. Okay, so I have another letter from Napoleon to Josephine. It's very interesting to see Josephine is trying to get her health to the point where she can have a child because the only way she can save her marriage is if she's going to have a child. And she's trying to get her health back. Okay. And then Napoleon is this is like the golden period before things got bad, obviously. And Napoleon's at Malmaison, this beautiful property that they had outside of Paris. And he's with his stepdaughter Hortense and their whole world. And Hortense, who was obsessed with him, they were obsessed with each other. She would put on plays for him. I know you can't make this up. Right. So she would put on plays for Napoleon. And he loved, loved, loved the plays. And then at the end, he would judge them. It's so funny. But that's Napoleon because he's really a director. You know what I mean? So he's getting involved with the theater at the estate. And it's just the whole world at the beginning of the empire. I mean, he's just first consul at this point, but he's building his empire, and the aides de camp are all running off, and they can't do the play because Napoleon has like important things for them to do. So Hortense does such a good job describing this beautiful period where Hortense would put these plays on for Napoleon. I'm just to show you how they're dynamic, ridiculous. So Hortense would be like the lady of the house when Josephine would go off and do her water cures. And then during one of these, Josephine found out some actress was there. She ran out and came back. And then she scolded Hortense for letting this actress be somewhere near him. It's funny. This is their life. You know, they had this crazy life where Napoleon and his stepdaughter are madly in love with each other, but Hortense would never, ever in a million years do anything with her mother's husband. You know what I mean? So Josephine really trusted Hortense and then really used Hortense to keep that marriage going. Because why Napoleon really didn't want to divorce Josephine is because he didn't want to lose Hortense. That is so huge in this. Anyway, so I'm going to read you just a little letter, which is a kind of snapshot from that kind of time. I have not received any news of you. I suppose, however, that you have already begun to take the waters? We are a trifle sad here. Though your amiable daughter does the honors of the house to a marvel, for 2 days now I have been slightly troubled by my ailment. Big Eugene arrived here last evening. He is in splendid health. I love you as on the first day, because you are good and above all amiable. Hortense tells me that she has written you often. 1,000 pleasant things, and a love kiss, all thine, Bonaparte. Oh my goodness, that was the most Cohen letter of all. Okay, so as a obsessed fan of Cohen's, okay, what you do as an obsessed fan, you listen to his music and you wonder how soon his next divorce is coming. That's our favorite game in the Cohen listening. Anyway, so you can pretty much see where the process of divorce is at from the songs. So this is me in the 90s listening. I'm like, it's not sounding too good. I shouldn't laugh. These are people's lives. And it's not funny. But I was listening to one of those songs today, and it reminded me of what I used to think about back in the 90s. That I did think that marriage was gonna end. Anyway, so as we know, so you know what the kind of insincere makeup songs sound like. That's reminds me of that letter by Napoleon. Like, oh, love you, baby, forever, totally. That's 1 year before the divorce, usually. I'm just saying that's a parallel. Maybe it's a little rough to say, but I have to say it. I have to, unfortunately. So, this book is incredible, and I love it. So, we're in Liverpool. Cohen is seeing all these stud muffin Liverpool rock stars from Brian Epstein. Obviously, he wants that to be him up on this stage, of course, because he's better than all of them, and he knows it because he's Napoleon. He knows anything they can do, he could do better because he's Napoleon. He could do anything. I know this. He could be a rock star. He could be anything. He just has to. He's that much of a genius. I know this. I don't want to create rivalries or anything, but it's just the truth. This is an unbelievable genius. Anyway, we all know that. Just and then it skips to the future when he's like the biggest thing in 1978, and they're hiring girls to scream for him, which is part of the official narrative. Hollywood High School, 1978, with the paid girls screaming. So that's where we are, and he was describing Rock and Roll High School, which I watched when I was a child, and I loved it. I did love that movie. As a child, I thought it was fantastic. Anyway, so let's continue. It was something of a stunt to bring our brittle, increasingly surly new wave pop to a high school hop at the head of a bill that included the rock and roll of Nick Lowe and Dave Edmunds' Rockpile and the cartoon junkie melodrama of Mink DeVille. We were forbidden to take alcohol onto the premises, so we sat outside in our Continental Silver Eagle tour bus, getting refreshed ahead of the show. There was a sudden knock on the door, and we hid all the contraband, slipping the lock. A halo of sunset framed a man wearing a baseball cap with the legend Archangel. It was Neil Diamond. He threw his arms out wide, as if he might be about to go into Dry Your Eyes, which we used to catcall when watching our VHS bootleg copy of The Last Waltz, because we thought he was a square next to the likes of Dr. John and Muddy Waters. Actually, he wrote Red, Red Wine. And girl, you'll be a woman soon. And about 25 million beloved bestsellers. So that's how much we knew. Years later, encountered Neil at the BBC television center. He was playing I'm a Believer in a minor key. I was playing A Slow Drive with Josephine. And Paul McCartney was on the show singing Band on the Run. Time has a way of playing with all these pictures. I shook Neil's hand and said, "Pleased to meet you." He said, "We've met before," and named the time and place. I'm glad he didn't remember the scene any clearer, as he had greeted me more expansively than my demeanor deserved. That night in Hollywood, at the door of our bus, he had begun with a fanfare. "Welcome to my country," he said dramatically. Our resident hitman, Bruce Thomas deadpan, "I didn't know we were in Hungary." As if it were a missing line from A Hard Day's Night. And there was very awkward beat. Then somebody called out, "Showtime, you horrible lot!" And we were pushed into the spotlight. Suddenly, there's just a piano playing and girls calling out my name like they didn't mean it. Okay. Have a nice evening.